Hi, this is JR, and this is a very important story. She moves toward him slowly through the crowd. Soon, if everything goes as expected, then the parents of the couple will be grandparents. She steps beyond the edge of the crowd and continues closer to him. And when the couple finally does embrace, the crowd begins stomping on the ground and cheering and hollering. However, not everyone was cheering. One youngster had been quietly lying in bed and listening to the story before going to sleep. And suddenly the child sat up and asked a very serious question. Of course, this was a very important question, or the child would not be asking it, right? But what did her hair look like? Was it shining in the sun? Was it waving in the wind? Don't you even know the right way to tell this story? Seriously, how could she just walk right up to him if her hair is not right? So these could be the kind of questions that required another glass of water first before they could be properly addressed. So the child went to get some water while the storyteller consulted the sacred book of important stories and waited for the child to return. Well, it says here that her hair was down to her shoulders, but that's about it. The storyteller then turned to face the child and asked, "What exactly do you think is most important about her hair?" The child answered, "First of all, her hair was absolutely beautiful. It was stunning. For instance, her hair made the sunlight look very pretty, not just cute like your hair. Also, as she walked, each step made her hair dance on her shoulders. There was no wind at all, so you could really see the rhythm of her footsteps just by looking at her hair. And obviously, this is what really matters, okay? I don't get it, though, because I thought you knew how this story should go." "Dear me," said the storyteller. "Oh, you're quite right. I was telling you the story a short way, and so I did leave out some details here and there. Thank you for saying so and correcting me." "You're welcome. You need to get it right, though, so it is a good thing that I'm here now." "Now," the child said, "what is that book that you were holding in your hands?" "Yeah, that one right there. That one. It does not have. Does it even have any pictures in it? It doesn't have any even. It doesn't even have any pictures in it. It must be very boring." I mean, that's not a real book, is it? Bookkeepers and storytellers, they don't understand these kind of things. Anyway, so the storyteller said, "This? Oh, well, this is the sacred book of important stories. And it contains writing that repeats the stories that people used to say out loud." So the child said, "Okay, yes, right, I know all about that book." Now that the stories are written down into that book, is that what makes them so important? The storyteller placed one finger right over the top lip and tapped it there a few times and then said, "We can check the book. Let's see what it says about that, okay?" Nothing there. Let's see. Okay, how about... The storyteller flipped through the pages looking for the sections on Isaiah or Jesus. However, this was not going as fast as hoped. Here's, who is that? Alexander Hamilton and Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Andrew Jackson. Where's Isaiah and Jesus? So the storyteller decided to check the internet. I'll see if I can find the one thing about worshiping with the lips. Worshiping with the lips. Let's see. Just a second. Worshiping with the lips. Oh, and there's also that other thing about the truth being written in the heart. Just wait for a minute there while I check while this browser loads, okay? So the child was impatient and finished his water or her water. I don't remember if it's a her or a boy, or her or her, or her or his, or her or a him. That's it. So the child was impatient. It said, the story is taking way too long. How can a story be more important just because it's been written down? Doesn't make sense. First, people say the story out loud, then someone writes it down, and then people read it out loud or read it silently. You know, the writing of the story that was spoken and then was written down, then people read it. I mean, it's still the same story though, right? So to say that writing it down makes it more important, it does not make any sense. That's like saying that the same story becomes important just because it is put onto a website. The story may get to be well known because someone records themselves reading it and loads it onto YouTube, right? But that's not what makes the story valid, as in valuable. The story is just as valuable whether it is spoken, written, or recorded as an audio. Now, could you hear that? All right, so the storyteller was impressed because that was all the child talking about. I don't know if you were clear on that, but the child was impatient, and then the child said all of those things. And that was really important, because if it wasn't important, why would the child have even said it, right? So the child was talking about, like, the story gets spoken, then it gets written down, then somebody reads it out loud, uploads it into YouTube, all that stuff. So the story is just as valid whether it's spoken, written, or recorded as an audio. However, frankly, if you do have a recording of something as an audio, that can contain a lot more stuff, like the gestures, the tone of voice. It can be a lot more engaging as a story, right? And if you tried to translate that, you would actually lose a lot of information. So if somebody says it out loud and then somebody just writes down the actual words, they're actually gonna miss a lot of the potential value of the story, right? If they're just recording the words and they're just transcribing the words, they're not actually like putting into detail how the person said it. You can't. It's like just a reminder for the actual story. It's just the words of the story. But the story isn't just the words. It's also how the words are, what the accents are. Like if you talk like this or if you talk like this, see right here? And that's a different story right there all of a sudden because it's different. Okay, so if you translate it into a different accent, or you turn the book the other direction, or there's a lot of things that could change the story. What if you put it from one website onto a different website? Then is it more important because now it's on two websites? So these are the kinds of questions that the storyteller was very impressed by the child asking, because again, these are very important questions that wouldn't have been asked if they weren't important. So the storyteller said to the child, wow, again, you were quite right. All of that stuff about, the fact that the story is just as valid whether it's written or spoken or whatever, that's what you said, and what you said is basically the same thing that Isaiah said in writing. And except, of course, that Isaiah did not speak using our modern language. He used a typewriter or a telegraph, I forget. But anyway, if he had used modern language, the child asked, then that sure would have been a lot smarter of him, right? Or if he used an iPhone instead of like a smartphone or a fax machine or some finger paints. So anyway, the smarter would have been a lot smarter of him. The storyteller was a little curious here. The storyteller repeated, smarter? You're saying it would have been smarter of Isaiah if he would have used modern language? In that case, in this case, what exactly do you mean by smarter? Duh, said the child between sips of water. Duh! Smarter means easier for me to understand. Okay, now that's the end of part one, which means that there's probably more than one part. So if you want to go on to part two now, you could, but you don't have to. You could. You don't have to, though. Just go ahead and do it, though. Go to part two now.